like 7 other Dans, right? So all of the older guys started calling me Don, and for some odd reason. So then when I started this whole YouTube situation, I started calling my audience the Don Mafia because I sort of did a play with my nickname in college and then also Bill's Mafia. And it stuck for about the first year. But I'm glad that I finally have a platform like right now where I can go on ahead and I can set the record straight
Heck yeah.
right there as far as the origin story of what that all means.
That's pretty good. Again, this is episode Dan Mitchell brought to you by Dubby Energy Drinks, man. Go check them out. Fantastic, all natural, great energy. Uh, that on the package, man, it says from 4 years old up is where it's approved for. Don't know. I want my 4 year old on no energy drink, but I'm just saying they got enough energy. But go check them out. JDub44, 15% off of whatever you order over there. And again, Dan Mitchell. Let's talk about from the beginning. I didn't realize you're from Hello Buffalo.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah,
cool, man.
man. Yeah, man, for sure. I was born in Mercy Hospital, South Buffalo. I lived off of Crystal Street for anybody that's familiar. And I spent vast majority of my childhood in Hamburg. I was about maybe 15, 20 minutes away from the stadium. All the way up until I was about 13 years old, my dad just got sick of shoveling driveways.
Sure.
So then he decided that he wanted to pick the family up and move us down to South Carolina, where I spent the vast majority of my life after the fact. Uh, so it was cool, but really at the end of the day, those Buffalo roots are still there.
Hmm.
And so I try to go up as much as I can for Bills games, see family, and it's a hell of a lot easier of a trip now that Buffalo is competitive.
Yeah, you're excited to get up there, for
Yeah.
sure. And I was listening to some of your content, and I want to say you did. I hear you say that in North Carolina, you were in law school.
I was.
So that's an
Yeah.
interesting. You went from law school to living your dream. A lot of people, law school is the dream. So
Yeah, so really a backward story about that. I ended up going to a school called Charlotte School of Law, and unfortunately it ended up losing its accreditation when I was 6 credits away from graduating.
oh my god.
So, so I was sitting there, I was prepping for the bar exam and everything along those lines. And then we end up getting the news. It's just like, hey, like this is a for-profit organization. It was some sort of scandal when it came into like federal funding, etc. So we ended up getting the option of saying, okay, y'all can transfer, but surprise, surprise, only 1 full year of your credits would be able to transfer.
Bro.
So you would have to essentially start your second and third year over. And guess what? Like, we're not helping you with debt. Like, you need to accumulate more student debt on top of that. Second option was is that so I could just go on ahead and apply for federal loan forgiveness, and it would appear as if I never went to law school, like right in the first place. So I ended up taking the latter option, obviously, because I wasn't trying to
Sure.
start my like mid 20s, like $500,000 in debt. And then I ended up getting into the whole like tech sales world and stuff for a few years. But and so it sucked. But like really, I always look at it because with God always has a plan. And to be honest with you, when I started getting into my third year, I kind of started questioning like,
Hmm.
is this really the career that I wanted to do? Right? Because I was deep into an externship with a corporate firm right outside of Charlotte, and I just noticed like how a lot of like these associates would get there at 6 a.m., like not leave until 9. A lot of them just appeared to hate their lives. And I was like, oh man, I think this is like a way with God working in mysterious ways. And so I feel terrible for a lot of my colleagues because a
Yeah.
lot of them, like that was their end game right there. But I can say that I look back on it fondly with all the relationships I made. But it's funny how life works. And so now I yell at a computer screen about the Buffalo Bills for a living.
Which I think the law degree would have came in handy, right?
Yeah.
I love. I think what draw me to your show, to be honest with you, man, is on my other platform, my Kapow Media stuff. We all about the comments, right? People engage. I love the engagement. And a lot of the shows that deal with bills and different things like that, it's just you're just watching. You don't get to interact. There's very few questions, but you love the people in your comments. You give them a ton of
I
credit,
do.
and you get at the questions, and regardless if you agree or disagree. I've noticed that since I watched you though, your style has kind of changed.
Yeah.
Um, you were, dude, you were emotional with some of the questions early on, which I just cracked me up, and I loved it. But you've
Yeah.
kind of maturity happens, I guess, right?
It does, right? It definitely does, man. Like I kind of started off like so my secret, Jerry, and this is kind of something that so I wish that I could like handle a completely different way. But starting off, like it's such a shock when it comes into somebody that has like access to so many critics, right? Like reading comments, etc.
Sure.
Now what I have done for the past couple of like 7 to 8 months is right outside of my live chat on YouTube, like on Twitter or TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. Like now what I do is I just don't read comments at all,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I don't. So for a variety of reasons, because number one, it's so I've been in this business for about 5 or 6 years, and I've seen a lot of people that have tried getting into it, and they start getting so fascinated with certain like negative feedback that they start to curate their takes, right? Based to
Right.
please the masses
Sure.
rather than them actually giving their wholehearted and their actual take by itself. So like now I've been sort of wanting to go on ahead and avoid that so I can still give my takes and not worry about negative backlash. And then at the same time, like I like look back like 2 or 3 years ago, like when I would just go in on people and like, yeah, I suppose it's like funny, like on paper, but like really
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like I just kind of realized like I was just like, why am I berating a complete stranger on the internet and just because they dropped a clown emoji right in my comment section,
Yeah. I'm with you.
like that makes me look a hell of a lot worse.
Yeah.
And granted, like maybe this should have happened a bit like earlier. I'm 33 years old, I'm about to be 34, but yeah, I mean, so I would agree with you,
Well,
right? Like normally when people go online and like they're behind those anonymous accounts and they're just spewing negativity, like 9 times out of 10, like all I can think about is that look, like this person is probably going through something like
sure.
very terribly, like right within their life, and that's sort of their way to like cope or like make them feel better about themselves,
Yeah.
etc. And I just don't want to add like really any more to it because so hurt people, and like
Mm.
that's kind of like how I've looked at it,
Dan,
and I
you're
was just
preaching,
like,
son.
yeah, man, for sure. Like it's and so you're not the first person that's brought that up as far as like how I've shifted.
Yeah.
And like maybe it's like I've been going to church like quite a bit for the past year
Heck yeah,
and
man.
stuff like that. And so I stopped drinking like 9 months ago too.
Praise God. That's awesome,
So
man.
so I think that that's kind of been the reason
Yeah.
why my energy has shifted,
It's
if
awesome
you
though.
will.
But when I was in this as well, starting out, I was the same way. I'm in the comments. I'm getting angry, and
Yeah,
then I noticed that I'm spending so much energy focused on people that don't deserve any of my energy. Um,
exactly.
so I didn't. Had great people around me said, "Hey, don't type that." I've been married almost 28 years, and the wife's no, no, no. So that's a good support system. Um,
Yeah.
let's before we really talk about all your platforms, how they can talk to you. I want to know about Roundtable. Right, I'm
Yeah.
new to Roundtable, right, and I was just watching
Yeah.
one of your episodes, and I'm like, he
Thank you.
keeps mentioning Roundtable, so I
Yeah.
dove off in there, man. You guys are a riot, absolute
Thank you.
riot, man. I dig it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, man, it was great. So about 3 years ago, so I actually got approached by a Patriots creator by Master at Work, and he said, "You know what, Dan? Like, I have a great idea. And so, how about we end up pitting together me, you, a Dolphins fan, and a Jets fan for a weekly debate show where we just rip each other's throats out
Heck yeah,
once a week."
it's great.
And we thought that it was just something fun, like for a while, but then we started seeing some severe traction and right to a point where we decided rather than rotating on YouTube channels, so we decided to launch our own channel, saw even more traction from it. And then we were like, you know what? I think we might be onto something here. So then we recruited a creator that had already had an established audience for each and every single fan base. And we decided to launch all of the divisions.
Heck yeah.
So now in present day, Roundtable Sports is a podcast network. We have over 20 plus shows, 40 plus creators. It's largely what I'm doing when you're not seeing me live talking Buffalo Bills. It's really working
Yeah.
behind the scenes right there. So it's been a passion project, and we've been blessed enough and to see it be super successful, at least if you were to ask us.
No, I mean, I think it's incredible. I need to apologize to you for not stumbling on it sooner. Um,
Oh,
but I'm very,
no, not at all.
yeah, like I got a lot of different things out, so I have to be very picky about what content I consume because I have very little time to do. So I'm very picky about what I do.
Yeah.
I'm a my whole life, man. I've been a San Francisco 49er fan and a Buffalo Bill fan. Always had one
All
of
right.
these my whole life since I was a kid. Um, and I found myself I don't watch a lot of 49er, man. I've been the last 3 years, man. I really watch very little San
Yeah.
Francisco, except when if I check in on the round table and see you guys going at each other in the round table market, which is fantastic. Um, can we talk a little Buffalo Bill football?
Please.
I
Let's do
mean,
it.
this is your wheelhouse here, and I never
Yeah.
get. I've interviewed some of the high end people in the country, man. I've been in the game a long time. I do not get nervous at all about anything.
Yeah.
Going talking football with somebody like you does this for a living, because this is
Oh,
like my little side passion. Like, man, I don't know if I can keep up. I don't know if I can keep
no,
up,
man, you
man.
can. Dude, like it's funny because you know why? Like I am completely clueless when it comes into like the specifics, right? Like I guarantee you that like you could clean my clock with X's and O's. I can
I
guarantee you that you could there. Um so I think a lot of what I do is like really just based off of like surface level stuff. I'm very passionate about particular things. And granted, I'm not completely clueless when it comes into X's and O's and
sure.
offensive schemes, defensive schemes, etc. But like when you look at the guys, so like with uh so the Marino, for example,
Yeah,
right? Like with Joe,
yeah,
like he is an entire different level of knowledge where I come from, or Bruce exclusive.
yeah.
So for
Agreed.
example, like both of those guys, like their football knowledge is absolutely next level. So I promise you, I am nowhere near as intimidating as you're painting me out to be.
Well, you're very knowledgeable, but it's very passionate. But again, coming
Yeah,
from me in Northeast Alabama, I'm 2 hours from
yeah,
Atlanta, so I'm sick of Atlanta. Right, I'm sick of the Falcons. I'm sick of the
yeah,
Dirty Birds, and I'm
yeah.
excited to make my way over to the Monday night game.
That's
Pretty
awesome.
pretty stoked about that one. But um, fantastic season last year as a whole. Right,
Yeah,
from all the professionals. Buffalo, is a down year. It's rebuilding. They don't have this star. They don't have that star. But when I played, when I coached, and all the years I've been doing play-by-play, it's a team game, and it
it
doesn't
is.
hurt when your number one player is the best quarterback on the planet and Josh freaking Allen.
I know.
Um, I get so frustrated. I would love to hear your take on it about, hey, we don't have a number one. We don't have a true number one receiver.
Yeah,
Yeah, who
it
cares?
kills me too.
Yeah, man, I get so I just
Kills me
turn it
too.
off. I start hearing that, I just turn it off. But it's not like you don't have talented wide receivers. And I think
Yeah,
what we've done in the offseason is pretty low key incredible. I think there's been big
yeah.
needs filled. But let me just get your take on the whole wide receiver room in general.
So a few things there. When somebody brings that up, I always like to point out, like, look at the both. So the both teams that were in the AFC Championship last year. Name a solidified wide receiver one for that team,
You can't.
and you can't,
Yeah,
right? And to go even deeper on that, like you have to look at some of like these like star-studded wide receiver rooms. A perfect example would probably be the Cincinnati Bengals, right? Like they
sure.
just ended up tying up close to 30-40% of their overall cap room within three specific players on the offense. But then they've been sitting on the outside in looking at playoff teams for the past 2 years because they can't afford to actually pay quality depth on the defensive side of the football. I love the way that Buffalo just goes on ahead and moneyballs a wide receiver, is
Right.
typically what I like to say.
Right.
Because what goes into a true number one, right? It is multiple different traits that stand out, right? Like a crazy number one wide receiver is going to have speed, is going to have a full route tree, is going to have a quality like yak percentage or like quality yak right after the catch, etc. What Buffalo has done with their wide receiver room, and why I do want to say that I was one of the few that felt confident with this wide receiving core going into last year.
Mhm.
I felt like I was one of the few. Is because we take all of those traits that you want in a star, but we end up getting those minute contributions from a variety of different players. Like we have that guy that is quality in yak, right? And that's Khalil Shakir. He's one of the
Without
most
question.
slept on slot like wide receivers in the league. Now we ultimately have a speed guy finally, somebody that can completely blow the top off of a secondary, and that's Elijah
Elijah
Moore.
Moore.
We didn't have that last year.
Right.
Now we have a route technician, which is Josh Palmer, who I have been saying, I
Whew.
think this is who Amari Cooper should have been for us last year, barring an injury. We have a Curtis Samuel, who don't sleep on Curtis Samuel. He was playing through a lot of last year with, I think, nursing a turf toe injury.
Right. Right.
I think that he's supposed to be that upgrade for that gadget type player. And same thing with Keon Coleman. I know that a lot of Bills fans were upset with Keon Coleman's production, and they always end up trying to compare him to, oh my God, Xavier Worthy, look at that. But remember,
Yeah.
like we never drafted Keon Coleman to be a wide receiver number one. We drafted him to be a guy that could dominate in contested catch situations. And he largely did that last year. We needed him to be that guy, and he is. So, yes, we don't have a lot like a star studded guy that's $50 million plus or a 30, $40 million plus wide receiver on said roster. But what we do works. And when you have a quarterback like Josh Allen, you don't need a solidified number one wide receiver.
Right.
I mean, you just don't.
Well, Coleman, to me, he was drafted, in my opinion, to be a rebounder. Right? That's who he is. He is a
Yeah.
rebounder, right? Big bodied guy.
Yeah.
He's never going to. But if you look how he was trending, Dan, before the injury, I think people forget about that. Then when he came back, and that was a
No.
tough injury. Yes, well, he was not who we thought he would be at the end of the season. But without that injury, I think it's a whole different outlook on him, and I think people are more high on him.
So Bean always says this. Like he says that like you always learn what your biggest weakness is at your final game of the season.
Hmm.
And what led to us drafting Keon Coleman had to do with one of those weaknesses. And that had to do with contested catches.
Right.
Because I hate to bring up this PTSD moment, but I think 2 years ago we all remember that deep shot that Josh
Sure.
tried feeding to Diggs and he dropped it,
Indeed.
right?
Indeed.
So like we didn't have like a big bodied guy, and that's what I think like most of Bill's Mafia just doesn't see. Like we never drafted him to be a new Stephon Diggs.
Exactly.
We drafted him to be a role player in that overall category. And if people are like hyper obsessed of being able to compare, oh my God, look at that, we could have got Xavier Worthy. Like you look at both of their stats, Jerry, it is such a small margin in overall production between the two of them, and Keon Coleman missed a handful of games.
Exactly right. Yep. Yep. Yep.
So likely exact same wide receiver as far as production.
It. Speaking of just PSD, the same thing last year. And
Yeah,
I watched the interview with Dalton Kincaid, and he said, "I catch that ball 9 out of 10 times."
he does.
And
Yeah.
people are kind of not giving him I think the credit. Yes, he didn't. He was come from that injury. He was never the same. God, I still think you cannot convince me. You can't show me the data that shows that he's not a top 5, 6 tight end in the NFL.
Yeah. So the thing is, right? And like I have all the respect in the world for our quarterback. He's the MVP of this league. However, a large reason why I think Dalton Kincaid did not have the season that he should have was largely due to the lack of chemistry him and Josh Allen had last year,
Hundred
right?
percent. 100%.
Like when you look at a catchable pass rate out of all of our weapons, like you saw Shakir had like I think it was like 90% a catchable pass,
Insane
right?
number.
Same thing there. But Kincaid was by far the lowest
Yeah.
as far as catchable passes that were thrown his way. And a lot of people were very protective of Josh Allen. Trust me, he's the MVP of this league. Thank God he is a Buffalo Bill. But a large reason why I think that young tight end struggled so much last year. And then obviously outside of him having a pretty significant knee injury sustained during that Colts game, had a lot to do with Josh just like not having that locked in relationship that they had during the first year. So I'm very I'm very optimistic that they can put some work in right during the offseason and fix that, but a lot of his lack of production I would probably put on Josh Allen.
So let's stay at the wide receiver room if we can. Obviously, we know Shakir, Elijah Moore, Josh Palmer, Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel. Who's the next guy? Who's the guy that's going to take that sixth spot? I think they
So
definitely
it's
take six,
interesting.
right? That's my opinion anyway. I
Yeah.
think they're certainly going to take six.
Yeah. 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 So last year we ended up going with five, like right at the beginning of the season, but then we ended up making a trade for Amari.
Right.
So once we realized, like, okay, like we need some more traits here. So I think that sixth spot largely is going to be determined on the kick return battle
Okay.
because that sixth spot is going to be hyper competitive, right? Because like I look at it like Laviska Shenault here. Like
Yep.
while he is not a star-studded receiver, I was very high on him right during the draft process. I was wrong
Sure.
on him.
Sure.
He never really lived up to expectations there, but he is a very talented kick returner. In fact, I think that he is better than Codrington. Like maybe I'm speaking too soon. Things can change,
Sure.
but I sort of look at it from this perspective. I think that if Laviska Shenault, if he ultimately ends up beating out Codrington, or even if Codrington is slightly better than Laviska Shenault, I think Shenault ends up taking it because while he's not the best wide receiver, he's a better wide receiver than Brandon Codrington is a cornerback as far as crowded room. Because like you look at that cornerback room too,
Mm.
I don't necessarily see us like carving up a seventh spot for a cornerback
Agreed.
exclusively for special teams contributions. So my favorite right now is going to be Chenault. Maybe Shavers, right?
I think
Maybe.
he may be the fan choice, right?
Oh yeah,
Everyone wants to see
yeah,
the kid because the big
yeah.
touchdown play, one catch, big touchdown. That the kid
Hmm.
has some traits, right? He has some electric
He
traits.
does. Yeah.
Um, does he? Is he a special teams guy?
While he has chops, I don't think that it would be enough of an impact on special teams to
Okay.
solidify that sixth,
Okay. I'm with
right?
you.
Like he could be next up on my overall list. Like, say for example, that Codrington beats out Chenault, or like with a God forbid that there is some sort of injury or something in training camp, but not nearly as much of a special teams contributor as far as like a needle mover would be for Chenault. So
Gotcha.
that right there is my pick, but who knows?
Who knows? Hey, let's move over to James Cook, right?
Oh,
It this is I think he's incredible talent. I've been going
he
back
is.
at night and rewatching this past season's games, and there were some plays that he made. Um, I see a jump from 2 years ago to last year, big improvement. But when you talk about that big contract or what he wants, or I haven't seen it where he's officially said I want this X amount of dollars for sure I will play, but very talented man. But it comes down to his utilization. He in pass pro, the guy's not there,
Mm-hmm.
but he gives this offense something special.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the camp of James Cook as
Yeah.
far as I think we need him. Um, Little security blanket, uh,
Yeah.
and that's just me. I know I'm in the minority here. I'm not saying
Yeah.
pay the man what Saquon is making,
Yeah.
but I think let's just keep it rolling, my guy. Keep it rolling with him.
Sure, man. Like when it comes to James Cook, it's definitely an interesting topic, right? Because I feel like the topic is so polarized, right? Like some people are just like, "Oh my God, we need him, and our offense is going to completely fall apart unless he is on this team."
Sure.
I don't necessarily agree with that group, but then I also don't agree with the group being like, "Screw that guy, trade him right now, cut him. He's not worth anything to this team." I'm largely right in the middle when it comes into James Cook because he does a lot of things and he provides traits to this running back room that I think that the likes of Ray Davis and Ty Johnson do not. However, I also can say that when you ultimately end up looking at the success all around from our running back room,
Hmm.
and while Ray Davis really didn't have quite a bit of opportunities, his advanced metrics as far as yards per carry, as far as like some things that you would be able to estimate if he had more opportunities, he would have been right around that range. A lot of it has to go with the offensive line, Jerry.
Oh,
A
no
lot
question.
of it, a lot of it has to, right? Like I love Ty Johnson, right? Like we signed him to a 2-year contract extension,
Yeah, man.
and but like he's an RB3, right? Like he's an RB3, and like he ultimately ended up spending some time with the Jets for a little while, and I suppose he did okay, but we saw him explode during his opportunities last year. At one point, he was the leading receiver for the Buffalo Bills
Yeah.
in one game, right? So I think a lot of it, like you do need to look at like what factors are like really increasing what James Cook can put out on the table. Now, I do want him on this squad because number one, I have heard, right, that right according to Bean, he does plan on playing in 2025. It wouldn't make sense for me to believe that he would sit out because this year he is set to make $5 million. And in order for
Correct.
him to make $5 million, he needs to play each and every single game. He's 25 years old. He's about to be 26. Him sitting out for a full year, not receiving a penny, and him trying to convince an NFL team next offseason when he's out of contract that he's worth $15 million a year is going to be, you know, very unlikely.
Sure.
So for me, I really don't care how much we pay the guy, right?
Mm.
I'm fine with going on ahead and like putting him like on a 2 to 3 year deal with 15 million. Because one thing that I always like pointing out is I feel like with the everybody when it comes into contracts hyper obsesses over average annual value. And I always try to like pause people on this by
Yeah.
saying, look, never look at just average annual value. I want you to look at guaranteed money.
Okay. I'm
Like
with you.
what is guaranteed going into their pocket? Because really with any time that like you see a player that gets, oh my god, like this player ended up getting $55 million per year, right? Oh my god, like what an overpay. But just look at the overall guarantees, and 9 times out of 10 how the contract is structured, you could end up walking away from 30 to 40% of what you signed for that guy with limited cap implications in the first place.
Yeah.
So I think James Cook isn't necessarily looking for 15 mil per, but he's looking for something around like the 20 to 25 fully guaranteed, which I think is reasonable.
No, I'd agree with that. He's a special player, um, but is he 15 million a year? I don't know. It's not for me to say, but what
Yeah.
I also want to pay attention to is when you look at the average per year, that changes because 3 years ago I signed a contract. It was this, but the salary cap has went up to this. So are we talking
Yeah.
apples to apples? And I think some of
Yeah.
that kind of gets lost in
Yeah.
translation sometimes.
It's not scary either because like now that so the average NFL fan is paying $1,000 plus a year to watch every single NFL game. That goes significantly into the cap,
Sure.
and they're already predicting that we're going to be seeing more $30 million cap increases year after year. So in the grand scheme of things, 15 M's for a running back, it's not that crazy.
Yeah.
It's, it's not that crazy whatsoever. But we'll see what's going on with Brandon Bean and whether or not that he wants to prioritize like that contract extension. But say that you were to ask me, I just have a feeling that he's going to play on the final year of his rookie deal. He's going to play on with a chip on his shoulder, which is not a bad thing because this is his audition
For
to
the big
show
guy.
either the
Yeah.
Bills or some other NFL team that he is indeed that dude. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Well, be careful because he may go get the money somewhere, but there's a good chance that they don't have that
Yeah,
offensive line he's running behind right now.
exactly.
Big part of it. Hey, so let's
Exactly.
jump out of the Buffalo Bill talk just for a second. Let's hit you with that rapid fire.
Oh, I
Just
love it.
a bunch of
I
stupid
love it.
stuff coming at you. Brought to you by Twin City Used Cars here in Gadsden, Alabama. Rapid fire. This was episode Dan Mitchell. Coffee or tea, sir?
Coffee. Black.
Love it. A lot of health
Only.
benefits. You weight
For
room
sure.
junkie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pineapple on pizza.
No.
Praise God.
It's right
Um,
to jail.
best wings in Buffalo.
A sleeper pick 911 Tavern. And so I would say, so normally I would say Barbell, but that's such a cop out answer. Great wings at Barbell, but 911 South Buffalo.
Done it.
Incredible.
All right. How about this? What is the worst pickup line that you've ever used on a lady? The
The
worst.
worst
Yeah.
worst pickup line I've ever used on a lady. So to be honest with you, man, I typically would just go up and say, "Hey, I'm Dan. What's your name?" Like that was my go-to. Like
If it
like
works, it
nine
works,
times out
right?
of ten, I just introduced myself. Like I never really got into that like corny pickup line like
Dude,
side of
I was interviewing. We'll stop just for a second. I was interviewing a Catholic priest who
Oh,
that episode's gonna be coming out probably in a few months. He's actually from Tennessee. He's a big. If I said his name, everybody would know it. And his favorite before he got into the priesthood, he said, "Hey, I've lost my phone number. Can I have yours?"
oh wow,
Coming from the clergy, my friend. Coming from the
dude,
clergy.
I
Um,
love it.
and maybe that's why he got into priesthood.
Yeah, yeah, maybe.
How about this? What is Dan Mitchell's favorite quote?
Oh wow, man, what is my favorite quote? I'm gonna have to think about this for like 3 seconds.
No worries.
Favorite. Oh, actually, it is right on my whiteboard, and so I look at it every single morning. It's "No one is coming to save you."
Oh, hey, that's strong. No, that's very strong,
It's motivating.
especially in what we do.
Yeah, exactly.
Very self sufficient. How about this? Give me your Mount Rushmore of Buffalo Bill players. Who's your
Ooh.
four? Who is your Dan Mitchell's Mount Rushmore?
Okay. So I think the obvious is Bruce Smith and Jim Kelly. I am putting Josh Allen on there
Okay,
because I do believe Josh Allen is the best quarterback in Bills franchise history.
agree.
And maybe it's because of my recency bias. And then Steve Tasker.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
slept on guy, dude. Listen, a big piece of this team for quite some time. The disrespect about the Hall of Fame situation, but Tasker I'm putting on there.
Dude is a dog.
He is,
There is no
dude.
question. If people who
He's underappreciated.
I agree with that. So no, make a note of that. That's awesome, man. By the way, all right. Top three movies, Dan Mitchell.
Top three movies. All right, my favorite movie is The Town, and so I'm not sure if you saw that. It's
I've
with Ben
not.
Affleck.
I've
Oh
not.
my god, it's incredible, man.
Okay.
You have to see it. It's like bank robberies. I love so The Departed as
Okay.
well.
With you.
Solid flick there. And then I'd probably also have to go with Avengers Endgame 3.
Okay. I mean, I
Yeah.
can feel that. I can feel that. All right. So,
Yeah.
who is your top uh, creator in the Buffalo Bills space? Can't say Dan Mitchell.
Can't say so just one. Probably have to go with Buffalo Fanatics. I love Rico. I love Z-Bot.
Rico. Yeah.
Some good friends of mine, man. Like we're actually doing an event right in Buffalo week 3. So with all three of us and the Roundtable boys, really love their energy,
That.
man. I have so much respect for them. Um, so back when I was just starting and like I had like 300 subscribers,
Yeah.
so I reached out to Rico and I asked, and so if he wanted to collab, and he was super cool about it. He's like, dude, absolutely, man. He was so cool. Like when I started off, and I always remembered and I appreciated that.
Hey, let's circle back at don't let me forget. Let's circle back to that event, right? That's a Thursday night, and you're selling tickets for that already?
Yeah, most definitely. So right now we are accepting deposits. So normally how we do these events, so we typically end up having like a lump sum of group tickets. Ideally, we like to get some additional benefits, like go onto the field, but this is
Sure.
the first time we're doing it in Buffalo, so I have to see if they like have the same perks, etc. But then we also end up having a tailgate party beforehand where we have a live show, a bunch of super cool perks. We just opened up deposits to save
Okay.
spots
Cool.
for week 3, but all the details should be coming out in a couple of weeks.
All right. Who is your favorite content creator outside the sports world? Do you watch anybody outside of ball?
Outside of ball, man. So like funny enough, I really don't watch a lot of like football content, especially since it's like my job.
Sure.
So what I like to do is that like I'm really in to a lot of videos on crypto, on personal finance and stuff like that. I can't think of any specific creator, but that's typically what my like for you page is just filled with.
That's
Is like
awesome.
the personal finance stuff, like some news, etc.
Any quick crypto tip you want to give us?
Oh man,
All
no
in on
financial
all
advice,
in on
man.
Ethereum right now, or
My
what are we doing?
um, so big believer in this AI token. It's called Bit and Soar.
Okay.
It's quality. It's something I'm pretty heavily invested in. And it's not financial advice, all
Sure.
right?
No, no, no. Just
But
talk. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And then I have been really into this one high yield ETF called MSTY.
Okay.
It has crazy dividend payouts, which is solid. So look into that too.
To the moon. To the moon right there.
To the moon,
All right,
man.
Ted.
Yeah.
Hey, who would be your dream golf foursome? Yourself and what three people?
Woo. What three people? I probably need to bring Josh Allen in there, obviously. And then I would need someone to make me laugh. I'd probably go Theo Vaughn as well. Love his podcast. I forgot to mention that, and so I listen to him quite regularly.
Dude's hilarious.
Man, and I'd say Dion Dawkins. Throw Dion Dawkins in there too.
Dude,
Quality.
he needs his own cart though. That brother's
Yeah.
huge. He needs his own cart.
Oh yeah, most definitely. He'd be keeping it laughing. We'd be having a good time.
All right, what's your go-to meal?
Go-to meal, steak for sure, man. I'm a massive steak guy. Nice ribeye, and like rather than going on the grill, because right now I'm in a condo, so I don't like have a grill. Like my place, so does not allow it. So like recently, what I've been doing with steaks is like nice cast iron, sear it on both sides for about 30 seconds a piece, finish it off in the oven.
Yeah,
Incredible.
dude.
And steak is quality.
The last year, I'm addicted to my air fryer. So, bro,
Right?
you can throw a ribeye in the air fryer from
Really?
frozen. Yeah, listen, from frozen.
Yeah.
You do 18 minutes, flip it, 18 minutes, season it, 1 minute on each side. Perfect from frozen.
So I'm gonna have to
Perfect,
do that, man.
bro. I'm telling you,
Yeah, no,
game
I'm gonna reach
changer.
out to you, and
Game changer.
so I'll have to give you and some feedback on it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
What about what's your favorite all-time Josh Allen play?
Man, there's so many, man, but like I would probably have to go with most recently last year when he ended up getting the pitch back from Amari Cooper and just dove in for the
The
touchdown.
49er game.
Yeah, it was the 49er game, which was absolutely insane. It's
Crazy.
it's definitely nice for Bills fans because I feel like every time we end up seeing our favorite play from Josh Allen, it's just like 4 games later where we see something else completely ridiculous.
For sure.
And so his hurdles are crazy. Like his first hurdle against Minnesota during his rookie season. So it was also something I'm like, oh my God, we might have a quarterback, ladies and gentlemen.
What about the
But
throw he made? He said this was his favorite throw. I was watching some podcast he was on, and it was against Denver.
Mhm.
Touchdown down the seams. He says the hardest football he ever threw.
The hardest one he
He
ever
says that
threw.
for him to say that it's pretty
Yeah.
because he
So
says
it was going off like 90 miles an hour off of
yeah, he
his
was
hand, probably,
just ripping it.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about your dog. I'm a pet
Bring
guy.
him in.
Yeah, man. Let's talk about the
Why?
dog. He's the
Yeah.
dude, man.
He is the dude, man. He is the dude. He's 10 years old. Unfortunately, he has diabetes, right? So he unfortunately lost his sight about 4 or 5 months ago,
Oh,
but he still as happy as can possibly be. He's sitting by my feet right now. He's super low maintenance. I always say he's like a cat, and for the most part. But
Heck
yeah,
yeah.
dude, he's my buddy. He's my good luck charm during games and stuff, and it's
that's
good news,
awesome.
man.
That's pretty special.
Shout out Milo.
Milo's the dude, no question.
Yeah.
Put that on a T-shirt. Hey, let's jump back into Buffalo Bill a little bit. Let's talk about the draft. I
Yeah.
know it's been talked about at nauseum, and
Mhm.
people who I love watching these people who think they know what's best, right?
Yeah.
And most of the people who are giving their opinions didn't watch these guys. Most of these guys play college ball. They certainly don't know them outside. They didn't interview with them. They don't know their personality. Fitting into a locker room sometimes it maybe is just as important as kind of athletic traits you bring, right? You can't be a
Mhm.
cancer. You have to be that team guy, especially in Buffalo. That culture seems to be next level. So, who are some of the guys that this draft you were like, man, I may not have saw it then, but I'm super excited we got so and so. Who would that be?
Yeah, man. So I love the Landon Jackson pick.
Oh yeah,
Like not necessarily because of like his overall college production, but the one thing that stands out to me is that you see massive jumps in production year after year after year in college.
yeah,
meaning that I think that we're getting dangerously close to his overall ceiling, and hopefully he ends up hitting the ground running from the very beginning, right? Then number one, Max Harrison. So at first I was looking at a couple of guys that I thought would be like a perfect like scheme fit, but then after hearing some of the medicinals against these guys, specifically with Will Johnson, who fell
Sure.
all the way to the second, so he was somebody that I thought could have been a dream for us. Um, but Max Harrison, half of the reason why I think people were kind of like straight away was that like, oh my god, so he runs a 4.28, so he must be a man corner. It's not the case at all.
Not at all.
Like he ultimately ended up playing right out of zone, out of Kentucky, and he's that guy where now, say for example, we go up against the Tyreek Hills or the Xavier Worthies of the world,
Hmm.
we can actually have somebody that can run shot for shot with that person, which I think was a beautifully constructed game plan going out and trying to find those answers to questions we didn't have the answer to previously. Love that. Love same thing with Dorian Strong, right out of VT.
Right.
I think there's going to be a crazy camp battle right between him and Dane Jackson. And so I think it's either going to be him or Dane Jackson. My vote's probably going to be Dorian Strong, but then again, we're speaking too soon here. Like one thing I kind of had beef with, and so I'm not going to lie to you, I did sort of like have like very strong opinions about this. I didn't really understand why Buffalo went with TJ Sanders right in the second round.
Scheme fit, right?
Right? Like it's yes, like he's a quality three tech, right? Like he's
Sure.
the kind of guy that can get to the QB. But I looked at what we needed as far as a depth perspective, and I look at the one tech defensive tackle position, and I see that Daquan Jones is on an expiring contract next year.
Right.
I was fine with having a double dip perspective on the defensive tackle position, but I thought that we would have very much went with a one tech in the second and then went with a developmental three tech, so right within the fourth. It's not that I think TJ Sanders is a bad player. He is a good player, and I really hope that he brings a
Sure.
lot into the pass rush side of things. But when that pick happened, I was trying to like wrap my head around why we would have, and the red flag that continuously ends up to like sort of like show up to me is that maybe Brandon Beane is planning for the future without Ed Oliver next offseason.
That's probably the
That's
only
kind
thing
of
that
where I'm
makes
at.
sense. Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Exactly.
What's
Exactly.
every Buffalo Bill person I've seen talk to know had a wide receiver they wanted to pick early in the draft. Who was your wide receiver you wanted, regardless first, second, third, fourth round? Who was the guy that
Uh,
you wanted? I think I heard you say Royals at one point.
yes. Royals or Kyle Williams. I loved Kyle Williams out of Washington
Yes,
State, man. Like his route tree is incredible. Like he destroys press man coverage. He sends ankles into the multiverse.
he
He's
does.
so crazy. And so I have been like running this joke. I'm like next year I'm probably not going to overhype players and put them high on my wish list because every time it happens, Jerry, they always get drafted by a team I absolutely hate.
Yes.
Every single one of them. Like my big draft board of players I was hoping the Buffalo Bills could have gotten. Kenneth Grant,
Oh,
guess what? He's a Miami Dolphin,
God, I hate
right?
Miami.
Same thing with Kyle Williams. Guess what? Like, he's a Patriot now.
Yeah,
Same thing with Jalen Royals. Guess what? He's a Kansas City Chief now.
yeah.
Like so many players I wanted ended up going there, but yeah, dude, I really wanted either Kyle Williams or Jalen Royals right within the third.
I really looked at for whatever reason, man. Tesla, I
Yeah.
dude was special.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I would have not been upset with that, but I'm much more excited that we got Palmer, right?
Me too.
And then we got Elijah Mitchell, and they play high school ball together. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that until recently.
Yeah.
So that's pretty. We talk about chemistry and coming in. I think it's gonna be a special thing. Um, Tight end, then we'll get you out of here, man. I know you got a million things to do. What you think about
Oh, it's
Jackson
fine.
Haas?
Haas is interesting, man, right? Because I do think that he is largely going to be like your blocking Dawson Knox sort of tight end
Mm-hmm.
as well. And since the Buffalo Bills, especially with Joe Brady, love experimenting with two tight end sets, I think that he's going to be a really big piece on special teams, number one, and then also my same sentiment as well of why I thought TJ Sanders may have been an insurance policy for the eventual departure from Ed Oliver.
Right.
I'm thinking it's the exact same thing for Dawson Knox. Because next off season, we could technically end up walking away with very limited cap implications, but it never hurts, right? Because we ended up losing on Quentin Morris, but then again, like he was sort of a hybrid. He was somebody that can make plays right in the pass catching game. Like, yeah, there's maybe a little bit left to be desired in his blocking capabilities. But now that we end up bringing in Jackson, I'm very interested to see what the overall plan was with that. But he's a roster lock.
Yeah,
Say that you were
I
asking.
hope to get him on the show. Actually, I have a connection to him. His quarterback at Georgia Tech, Zach Pythron, who's now transferred from Georgia Tech. He was like a day in Minnesota. He's now down your way. He's at South Alabama now.
Oh, cool.
So I was talking with him, and I'm just curious how. Give me from a quarterback's perspective. I'm asking him. He said this guy was everyone's security blanket. First of all, he's highly intelligent, right? Very smart dude. And obviously, you go from where you were in the Ivy League, and Georgia Tech's a great educational program as well. He talks about how aggressive he is blocking, really physical. But he said he had some of the best hands on the team. That says something. They had some dudes there. So I think that coming from his quarterback, this is Jerry White's opinion. It's from his quarterback who said this dude is going to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'm putting those wheels in motion. I hope to have him on the show.
And so same way with Dawson Knox, man, right? Like he caught his first touchdown pass in the NFL 4 years removed from football.
Yeah.
Right? Like he caught a touchdown pass in high school, spent all of college, no touchdown pass, and then in the NFL. So Haws, from what I understand based off of training camp reports, he's been impressing as far as some of the one-on-one drills in the receiving responsibility.
No doubt. Well, let's do this, man. Let's get everybody. See if we can get my people here. I know I'm only 40,000 or something like that right now, but let's get those people to look you up and start watching your stuff. You do more than just Buffalo Bills, or you give a total. You talk NFL, right? You're focused on, but you talk all NFL. How can they find you? I know you're Monday through Friday at 9 Central, but give us how everybody can jump on and follow you.
So with whatever social media platform you prefer, and so you can find me at Real Dan Mitchell. It's TikTok, Instagram, same thing with Facebook, same thing with X. And so I put all of my short form videos out on there in case you're just sort of getting like a short-term fix or want a short-term fix. And again, and just like mentioned, I'm live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. EST, right over at the self-titled YouTube channel, Dan Mitchell.
Heck yeah, man. Well, you're one of my top 3 that I watch now. I appreciate what you do. You crack me up, and hopefully we can have you on maybe summer or right before the season starts.
For sure.
And we didn't even touch the schedule, right? That's a whole different thing. That's a whole different show when it's on. People, go check out Dan Mitchell. He will tell you about the schedule, and go prepay for your tickets. Get your spot Thursday night, Buffalo. I'm telling you, man, there's going to be tables popping everywhere. It's going to be fantastic.
Always, man.
Dan Mitchell, thank you so much for being on the show today. Appreciate you so much.
Hey, man, likewise.
This is The Jerry White Show.